Deep in an underground secret Pacific Island lair, Pop Culture Minefield presents Saturday Morning Funtime. This is the Comic Relief Crusader telling you to get your morning cereal ready, because here we go.
Happy Saturday. Yay, it's Saturday. We are going to be talking about it's my number one favorite film of all time.
Why is John in my place?
A little film called Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's Blade Runner is what that is. We're going to be talking about Blade Runner. Technically, it is still the theatrical cut. It is the international cut. The problem was in the United States censors, MPAA, threatened to give them an X rating for the international cut when they turned it in. And so they had to alter Tyrell's death at the hands of Roy Batty and had to tone down some of the violence, and especially his murder, Tyrell's murder. And the way they did it with Tyrell is they shortened it and they put a red filter over the shot, so you can't really see the blood. So there was that. So it got its R rating in the United States, but the international cut is really the accepted theatrical cut by serious Blade Runner fans. It still has the narration by Ford, the deadpan narration by Ford, and it's cut the same way. And now, T-shirt, were you old enough to have seen it then?
Actually, the first time I got to see it was when it came to cable television.
So I'm the only one in this panel that actually saw it in the theater. I saw it in 1982 opening weekend.
Yeah, I was too little.
You're a wee lad then. But it had a monumental impact on me. The first, I went to see it with all my friends, Jim Woodward, all of them. And we didn't talk after the movie. The only conversation that took place was between Craig Edwards and me on the way out of the theater, and he was on the way in when I asked him, "Are you wearing makeup?" He's never let go of that. He actually put it in one of his little joke videos that I asked him that. He just turned away from me going, "Oh, whatever," and looked away from me. I'm like, what's he mad at me about? I asked him if he was wearing makeup.
Now, Gary, question, was it like the exact same thing? Because my experience with, for instance, sometimes they've recut movies after a little bit.
No, the theatrical cut is the same cut as the international cut. It's still the theatrical cut. It's just has the scenes that they were forced to take out or lessen the blow of the violence in. And it's so funny because give it a few years and all of a sudden that Blade Runner was tame compared to things that are coming out getting an R. The MPAA has its head up its ass. You can't trust them. And what pisses me off the most about them, unless you're Steven Spielberg, they won't tell you what to do to your film to fix it. They'll work directly with Steven Spielberg, but on his films, but they won't do that with anybody else. You got to figure it out all on your own and keep submitting the film. And of course, one of the greatest cons in cinema history against the MPAA was a little animated film called South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. They even got away with the name of the film. And by the time it got approved and they realized the MPAA figured out what was going on, they couldn't do anything. Nobody could do anything because it was already approved. I love that. Outwitting the system. But Blade Runner was one of several films that summer that suffered to E.T. It and The Thing lost all its box office to E.T. E.T. was just eating everything. It was Steven Spielberg's Shark in the theater.
It wasn't even good.
It's a terrible film. I hate it. I know a lot of people like it.
It's just stupid.
People are like, well, why do you like that film? Why don't you like that film? I said, because I thought it was seriously. I felt like it was insipid. It was insulting to the intelligence. I was 18 years old and I felt that way. But then I was reminded it's really a kids movie and tweens. I was too old for it. And that's just it. It was meant for tweens and teens that were
I saw
younger.
it as a teenager when it was on
And then-
TV, and I didn't like it.
And then later on, apparently, it was too much because they had to remove the guns.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and
reference-
Spielberg finally apologized for that stupidity. And I'm like, you did that. You chose to do that. God, he's such a dick. I can't stand Spielberg.
I will still go to fight with anybody about 1982 as being the greatest year in cinema, just because of all the wonderful films that we got.
It's one of the two best years. And I would say 84 is its twin. 84 had some really great stuff. But for me, I agree with you. 82 is my year. We had Wrath of Khan, Conan the Barbarian, The Thing. My two favorite films of all time.
Yeah.
Number one, Blade Runner. Number two, The Thing. Both came out in 82. But Conan the Barbarian, man, what a great movie. Gosh, there are a bunch of little films too that came out that year. It was a really, really good film year. Really good. And then 84. And that's why when we go back to do the 80s on the channel, Tom is wanting to do 1984 with Keith and me. And I can't remember which one Andrea wanted to do. I think he wanted to do 82 because he's a big fan of 82. And like I said, he might pop in. I've talked to him a couple of times. He wants to, but it all depends on his work schedule and his family and stuff. So hoping he pops in because he's got some good insight into the film too, like I do. But let's see who's all here today in the chat. Who do we got? We got Penny is here. Hi, Penny. Boosh McFadden is here. Alex Moore is here already. Monkey Jeebus, and of course Dragon Ruse. And hey, my buddy Ron McCain is here. What is up, dude? Comic book aficionado and creator, buddy of mine. Going to be working on a book together. Woo! Good guy. I'm well rested because I was working from 3 o'clock this morning till I had a meeting at 10 a.m. with my client. And I invited him to join us too, but he's not going to be able to. So sadly, he has too many things going on, and he's somebody you all know. So let's see. Who else is did I see somebody just pop in? Nope. Everybody's been mentioned. Nobody wants to fight me because I draw stuff on their faces after I choke them out.
That's gotta be Monkey Jeebus.
It's called, that's Monkey Jeebus. Dick facing, Mac, my buddy who does some of the voiceover work for our shows, he and I have partied a lot together over the last 20 some years. And the worst dick facing we ever did to somebody was we're at this bar. It's built in an old firehouse here in Springfield. And the dude got so drunk that he and his friends were asked to leave. And they had to carry him outside. And then a few minutes later, they came back in, but without the dude. So when Mac and I went to leave the bar to go home and go buy some beer and finish drinking at home, he's laying out there asleep in the grass right in front of the parking area of the bar, just passed out. And so just so happened had a Sharpie, and we took the drawing on his face. But what we drew on his face is the funniest part. Said, I went out to get drunk with my friends and all I got was dick face. I need new friends. My friends are the worst. And we just wrote shit like that all over his face so that when they see that, they know that they're the blame for what happened to him.
But Blade Runner had the really long ass weird digestion period to becoming.
Well, that's it. Yeah, because when I went to see it the first time, and I want to hear everybody's first time seeing the film, their reaction to it. My first time, I went with all my friends, and we didn't talk except for when I talked to Craig on the way out the door. And then we get in the car and we're quiet. Never did that before. It never happened before. We were all quiet. And then when we were all heading back towards Jim Woodward's house where we all got out, we finally all said, did anybody like that movie? And we're all like, I don't know, man. All he did was murder people and get beat up. We're expecting Indiana Jones or Han Solo, and it just, what the fuck did we just watch? And I was, all of us were taken aback by it. So on our own, without talking to each other, we went and bought the book and read the book, and then came back with a whole different attitude and decided to go back the following weekend to see it at the matinee. And we went to the Greenbrier Theater in Fredericksburg, and came out of it with a whole different perspective on that fucking movie. Completely different. I was in awe when I finally understood kind of what was going on. It really, the book doesn't really explain it. It's just the book let me know this is not what we were thinking it was going to be. The book tells you this is something about being a human being and having to kill things that aren't. And so we went back with a whole different attitude and enjoyed the film. I enjoyed it so much that it became my favorite film of all time. And I, in my mind, made connections with Les Miserables, which is, Victor Hugo's book on the French Revolution. And I saw the connection between Javert and Jean Valjean. And I'm like, oh my God, all he wants is more life, and Javert's just doing his job, right? And he's being hunted mercilessly. And I saw this connection thematically with the story. And I think I'm one of the few people, because I've ran into a couple other people who made that connection. And but very few people do, because not that many people have ever read Victor Hugo, right? Like, who the fuck wants... It's a very long book, and you got to take notes on it when you read it. It's like War and Peace is even worse. Like, because there are so many characters in War and Peace that I had to keep. What do they call that? It's a list of names. What is it? A bibliography of characters. So I knew who they were. I would get to a chapter and they'd come back and I'm like, oh wait, who the fuck was that? That book was confusing to me as a child. What?
Les Miserables?
No, War and Peace.
Okay. I haven't tried that one.
I made a comparison that it's not as confusing as War and Peace. But I had moments in even with Les Mis where I was like, what is going on here? But let's, before we start the film strip, how long is the film strip, Martin?
1 hour, 23 minutes.
Okay, we're okay. So, T-shirt, what was your initial reaction to seeing Blade Runner?
Well, I was still a kid pretty much at the time. And of course, I was coming off of the whole Star Wars thing. So yeah, I was kind of like you. I was expecting to see, Harrison Ford, whoop some ass and make some quippy one-liners, and it would be a nice, sci-fi romp.
Do that half smile thing that he does.
Yeah. And that's totally not what I got. I was really confused by it because, he was not the hero. He was getting his ass kicked all the time. But by the end of it, that scene, even back then, with Rutger Hauer at the end, where he's on the rooftop and he's giving his last lines, his Tears in the Rain speech. That just, something about that really hit me. And since it was on cable,
it's one of the most memorable moments in cinema history.
It's the greatest monologue in cinema history, and I will fucking fight anybody on that. But yeah, it's just like, it was on Showtime, so I got, they would spam that same movie all the time on cable, and so I got to watch it many, many times, and the more I got to watching it, the more awesome it was, because it was such an alien world. I mean, here I am, just some little kid in Texas, don't know anything about the way San Francisco looks or anything, and all the neon and all the strange languages and the smoke and the adult themes and everything, and it just blew my mind. But that's what started my whole love interest with cyberpunk and transhumanity and everything
with me,
else.
Of course, same thing with me. By the way, hi, lovely Sherry, and of course, Cobra Khan just dropped in too. So what's up, man? Push. Bush is one of those fans. Les Mis is not a book; it's a tome. Love you, Bush. Lying. Love you, Bush. But I'll share my story again. There's a separate video where I talked about the first time I ever got to talk to Rutger, because, as a lot of people know, I'm also the founder of the Blade Runner fan club. I got permission from the publication that created the fan club. It was in the back of the Blade Runner magazine, souvenir magazine, and we used to offer chances for people to win. They gave us their entire leftovers of that magazine to just give away to fans. And we did. We gave them away. Sold some on eBay to help support the channel. I mean, the website. But mostly we just gave them away to people in contests and stuff. And we founded the club in 1995 online. And so we started getting well known within the cast and crew. And the only person that Gary and I didn't ever try to interview was Harrison Ford, because we all heard how cranky he is. And I know that Paul said, "Oh, he's really a very nice person." I said, "Look, man, I can bring the worst in people out. So I'm not risking it, because I don't want to lose him in that position in my head. And it's just not worth it to me." So I've never interviewed Harrison Ford. And but Rutger is somebody I talked to a lot. We would banter via email or on phone. But the first time I ever talked to him, he was telling me stuff. And while we're talking, I just suddenly had this impression that he was sitting there in a tank top and boxers with his hand down his pants, because he kept burping in my ear. Mid-sentence, he'd be talking, blah, 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 blah. And I just finally was like, is he burping in my fucking ear? What the fuck? But he's so sweet. And he did so much with Blade Zone. He would do little video clips for us on holidays. One of the last one he did was for Roy Batty's birthday, his incept date. And he made a little video for that. And I just thanked him for doing that, you know. And then he's dead, you know, and it's like, it's so weird, because the two people that I was closest to on that film, friendly wise, talking to on a regular basis, both passed away. That was Morgan Paul, who played Holden. Gary and I had a very close relationship with him. And the same thing with Rutger. We both had a very close relationship with him. Sean Young.
I thought you were going to say Joe Turkel, but
Joe, I never really liked him. I mean, I didn't dislike him, but I just didn't really get into him. And my interview with him was so funny, because I think subconsciously I knew I didn't like him very much, or didn't get along with him, because I said, "Do you prefer to be called Joseph, Mr. Turkel?" And he goes, "Mr. Turkel." I went, "Okay, Joe." And I continued calling him Joe during the whole interview. And I didn't do it on purpose. It was subconscious. And then later I caught it, and I'm like, because I had to re-listen to my recording, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm an asshole. What the fuck is wrong with you? But Sean is the other person who I've had a close relationship for 20-some years now. And the guys got to hear her. She called me right before we did the show. I invited her on, but her connection, she's traveling right now with her husband, and just can't get the connection to join us. And it's sad, because I love Sean. And we all call her Mary. She decided to be called Mary because it's her real first name. And she prefers people that know her to call her that. And I also talked to Katie Haber this week, hoping she might be able to come on. But I'm saving that one for when we do the final cut. And I'm inviting David Snyder on too, the art director for Blade Runner. I don't want to have too many of our guests on. I want it to feel more like a panel. So I think that's it. I'm not going to ask anybody else on for that version. And because the two people who have some of the best stories for the making of the film are David Snyder and Katie Haber. And so we're looking forward to that. Deleted, Stephen, what was your reaction to seeing the film the first time?
Well, the first time I saw the movie, I was 9 going on 10. and I saw it originally on VHS because it was the first movie my dad bought when
it was one of the first major films to be released on VHS.
Indeed.
For public, for rentals and shit like that. Hey, somebody's here.
That's me.
I'm sorry, I should do a dog. So how old were you?
Bailey?
I was 9 going on 10. So I was maybe a little too young to be watching the movie in retrospect, because I think my parents didn't realize it was R-rated. Because
you had shitty parents. I get you. I had same thing.
Me too.
It's just
thank God, right?
Yeah, thank God, indeed. Because the movie was advertised, like you said, like it was going to be the next Star Wars. You're watching
Harrison Ford
too.
From
it's
Indiana Jones and Star Wars.
Yeah, and it's not that at all. I always looked at Blade Runner as more of like a character drama than an action film.
Yeah,
and
it's a character study.
I think it's
a character study.
Yeah, in much of the same way as Alien, because I also saw Alien again at too young an age. I was enamored with the set design and the world that was being built, and even then wanting to walk around in it.
Yeah, and it's one of those films I believe is one of the first major films for world building outside of Star Wars.
Oh my God! You have a double Gary.
Oh, Dust Wolfen is me too.
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, it's one of the first films to do that. Shinatsky, what was your first experience?
I saw Blade Runner the way it was intended, by renting it in a video store in 1994, watching on VHS over multiple days, because it was basically watch it right before going to bed with the director's cut. And then later on...
Wait, you saw the director's cut first?
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Because that was what was there. It was like, hey, Harrison Ford, I like science fiction. And between that and when I've looked at the ads for Blade Runner afterwards, one of the problems the movie has is the way they sold it gives you a completely false expectation of what it is, and it just creates a disconnect. It's like the advertising does a disservice. That theatrical trailer for the movie makes it look like Rutger Hauer is hunting him down the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that only really actually happens at the end. After
he is aware of him. He's aware of who he is. Because when he meets, he says his name. Aren't you the good man?
Yeah.
And
the tone of the movie is completely different from what they sell it. And then later on,
totally
because before internet, before finding about fan sites like yours, Gary, I was like, oh, it's on the Sci-Fi Channel. I tell my friends, this is a really cool movie. I didn't quite understand though. And then watching it, and then the voiceover comes out of nowhere. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Completely different feel to it. The narration was always there. It was in the script. But it just for Ford as well as Ridley Scott, they didn't feel it fit. It really wasn't a really good detective film. So, and that's why the narration was put in there, was to give it more of a feel of a neo-noir film.
Mm-hmm.
And Ford was in constant conflict with Ridley Scott too, over the fact that I'm playing a detective who doesn't do any detecting. So they made changes or additions back into the script that had originally been in, was chopped out, in order for his character to actually look and do his job, rather than just be flowing with the story and not having any purpose behind what he's doing.
Yeah, they do give a bit too much exposition, but as someone who started from the director's cut first without that, I was left confused on him as an actual character. Those little things of going my ex-wife called me cold fish, and there's like a couple little character beats there. Or when he's in the office and there's that line that I can't say about
the N-word
used to be called. That gives some context to Deckard and how Deckard feels, which isn't readily apparent because Deckard's just miserable the entire movie.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, basically, if you're not cops, you're little people, and that was the threat that his old chief held over him. Ironically, he was supposed to be older than Harrison Ford, and in real life, there's only like a year apart in age between Deckard or between Harrison Ford and I just forgot his name that plays the chief of police. And all these Blade Runner fans, nobody's jumping in to help me. All these Blade Runner fans.
What do you mean?
Emmett Walsh and his character. I forgot his character's name.
Oh,
Brian.
Captain Brian.
Harry Bryant.
Brian Tosan.
Yeah, Bryant is a racist, is what Deckard calls him. I always said I don't like that word being used. It makes me uncomfortable. Like, I've had friends jokingly say it with me in person, and I'm like, I really don't like that word being used around me. I was raised by my dad to never use that word, and so it makes my skin crawl. It really makes me that uncomfortable. And so when that happened in a film, I didn't like Brian. I immediately disliked him because of that line, and that always bothered me because I thought Bryant was actually a good character later when I got older.
I'm sorry. I would say that we should probably start the slideshow.
Yeah, go ahead. Pull it up.
Yeah, you can start. I'll just continue with it. Just real quick with it. The experience of having that voiceover and the other things just gave a bit more context, and I finally started to understand the movie. Whereas without it at the beginning, because the thing that some people complain about the voiceover, necessary with it, almost everyone who's like a big fan of the movie of your generation, you saw the theatrical first, so you had that context. You can watch it without it because you already know it. But going into it blind, it's just missing. And, I think they did a good job with that final cut for fixing things up.
Yeah, however, I do like the voiceover, and I miss it in the final cut.
Yeah, I've always liked it. I've always liked the voiceover. I just felt it hit one moment where they shouldn't have had it.
I agree.
Is at the end when he's sitting there with Roy Batty dying.
Yeah.
That narration was completely unnecessary. Yeah. And it should have been said after the fact, not like right over his experience of it.
Yes. That's exactly how I feel.
Did voiceover narrations, and there's actually some really good ones in there, in my opinion.
Well, I like the opening one where he's sitting there and he's talking about cold fish.
Yeah.
That's what my ex-wife called me.
Sushi.
Cold fish.
Or the fact that he views himself as a killer tells you a lot about how he viewed the actual job he did.
Yeah, ex-Blade Runner, ex-killer. I also like some of the other stuff. I love this scene between Leon and Holden. Holden, by the way, I point out that Holden's eyes also glow in this scene, and that the idea I think Ridley had that if he had massaged it out a little better would have worked. That humans use these things to kill each other would have been a neat plot within the story if they had done it correctly. But the problem was the way the show is set up. By the way, 1187 East Hunterwasser is also used in a serial killer movie starring Mark Harmon in the 90s. A little nod to Blade Runner. Also, Deckard's badge number is used as Cartman's uniform number when he got put into juvie. That's Deckard's badge number. Yeah. Blade Runner fans look for this shit because other Blade Runner fans don't make it really obvious. They're a little more subtle with their nods and Easter eggs. And there's even an Easter egg in Phantom Menace. There's an Easter egg to 2001: A Space Odyssey And when they're on Coruscant, there's a spinner that flies by in the background.
Yep. And they also have that bastard ET in episode 1.
Get over it.
No, fuck you. Never.
No, it ruined a lot, so no.
Ruined.
Oh, it didn't ruin nothing.
This whole beginning part, I mean, this is like, science fiction legend here. Just the questions, especially the one with the turtle at the end.
Yeah.
Nowadays, with what we know about psychology, they'd probably be asking him, if you didn't have breakfast today, how would you feel? And he'd respond, but I did have breakfast.
Yeah, it's like with a side of bacon. Oh, I would report them.
No, I'm sure the first question he would have asked him is what do you identify as?
Oh, yeah.
That would work really well, actually.
Yeah.
What are your pronouns?
Yeah, what are your pronouns?
I don't have any.
Now, this is a point where Holden knows he's a replicant. And also, Leon is smart enough to know that I have to kill this guy before he kills me. Because he knows he's been figured out. He got too nervous and wordy in his questions.
No, the moment when he asks, what is a turtle? And you see the reaction in Holden's eyes. He said, oh, so you are one.
Well, Leon's not supposed to be all that smart to begin with. Because
he's supposed to be dumb.
He's supposed to be dumb. Even though at the beginning they tell you it's like they're at least supposed to be as smart as the engineers that created them. And yet Leon is kind of like dumb. Although he does get really, really articulate right before he dies, interestingly enough.
Well, if you look at his...
Now, right here, this is a moment when his eyes glowed. And again, this was something subtle that Ridley was trying to put into the film that didn't work.
Well, the other thing with Leon, if you look at his bio, he was basically munitions loading. He was literally just designed
he was a loader.
to haul ammo from one point and load it into a gun to be fired to kill people.
Yep.
That's it.
Which also is one of the glaring mistakes in the writing, that a Nexus 6 is equal in intelligence to its manufacturer. And I'm like, that's a dumb thing to add in. Nobody would do that.
Yeah.
They would only make you smart enough for whatever job you're doing. That is one of the big mistakes in the writing for the story that I got. I caught that one. There's a couple more that just and for a split second, you can see it right there. That little purple bolt going out, that is referred to as a black hole gun. The rounds that it fires are antimatter. And so when it hits you, the idea is that it implodes in your body and does massive, massive internal damage.
Look at this comment just for you.
Did Pop Culture Minefield do an episode on ET? Fuck you, Dragon Ruse.
Dude, Ruse, we talk about stuff.
Hey, look, if you guys wanted us to, I would do it. I would absolutely do it, because I don't do these things just because I want to do them. I want to do things.
By the way, Decker's paper here talks about a worldwide uplink planned soon. It's going to go live soon.
It also has an advert for Animoid Row on there for getting animals. They're not real animals. And that's a big thing in the story is most animal life has been killed off because of World War Terminus. And World War Terminus is what it was called in the book. And they've referred to it that even in the screenwriters, Hampton Fancher, David Peoples, and Ridley have referred to it as World War III or World War Terminus. And the fallout from the war started wiping out animal life. And there's still animals out there, but most of them are growing extinct. And so it became important to recreate animals. And so that's why you have Animoid Row, where you can go buy these robotic animals as pets.
And the first animals that actually died off were the owls, which is where the significance of the owl in the Tyrrell building comes into play.
He did not say Blade Runner. He said Braid Runner.
See you, Braid Runner.
See, that makes me mad. That's what he said. Captain Brian Toka.
Yeah, because
owls
don't really exist in Japanese.
Nofa, Nehojma, Yabajaple.
Yeah, it's his horse dick
Mhm.
Yeah. Was it? Yeah, he always gets a laugh in Hungary whenever they're watching, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's
Hungary?
a mixture of Japanese, Hungarian, Czechoslovakian. I think there's a little German thrown in, and it's referred to as city speak. And
that is
that the
that's
city
a
is
oh, I'm sorry. That's a James Edward Olmos invention. He created that for that show, for the movie.
Yeah.
yeah, he did. He's the one who actually did it.
Uh-huh.
He did the hard work for creating city speak for the movie, because
Which
his
is
character is really the only one that was supposed to do it. But you actually hear other people in the background, like a cop. You hear one, he's a foot cop, but he's the driver of one of the spinners, and he says something in city speak.
Oh,
Look who is here, has joined us, is none other than Andre.
Hey, greetings, everyone.
Hey, how are you
Andre!
doing, my friend? We were giving our first experiences of seeing Blade Runner, and then we started the film strip.
Cool.
What was your first experience, Andre?
Yeah, first of all, I regret I don't have very long. I just want to pop in and say hi, since I was invited, and share some Blade Runner memories.
Oh, hell yeah.
My first memories of Blade Runner is actually the release of the director's cut when that came out. I hadn't heard about the
So
movie
you and Shinatsky
before.
had the same experience then. He saw that too. That was his first.
Yeah, that could very well be. So, like, for instance, the original theatrical cut with the voiceover and everything like that, I didn't see that until the Blu-ray release, like this 5-disc version with all different cuts of the movie. That's the first time I saw the original theatrical version. No, the version that I grew up with was actually the director's cut, which wasn't really a director's
Which really
cut.
isn't
but
the
that's-
director's cut.
I know.
Neither editor nor director were involved with it directly.
I know, it's ironic, but still, that was kind of like the version of the movie that I grew up with. So I saw like the advertisements around, and I bought into the hype, and I figured, whoa, this is like something that I really kind of like have to have seen. It's like one of these movies that everyone needs to have seen. And the poster on the VHS, because this was back in the VHS day, so like that VHS cover, that looked absolutely stunning and amazing. And this was around the time when I really had started getting into movies and buying movies and getting a collection. So I bought the director's cut, and I watched it, and I was young at the time. I was like in my very early teens, if even that, when this thing first came out. So to say that I fully understood it, its complexities, everything like that, that's a lie. I did not really get the movie until much, much later. What I did get, though, was the amazing visuals. To me, it was an audio-visual experience. I had never seen a movie like that. That was just so visually stunning in every single way.
And it stands up to today.
Oh, absolutely. It stands up better. Like that opening scene of LA with like the flames coming out in front of that building or something. To this day, that is one of the most stunning visual shots ever. The music by Vangelis and how that complements the picture. I mean, this is like one of the most stunning cinematic experiences ever put on
Vangelis,
film.
by the way, if you didn't know this, came into that music because he actually got to see one of the early cuts of the film, or at least part of it, and he was fighting with himself trying to figure out the sound. And that's what he did, is he mixed sound with music to create the feel of Blade Runner, and he did.
Yeah.
He is the flowing blood of Blade Runner from opening to close.
Absolutely. That movie without the score by Vangelis would not have been the same thing. It would still have been a visual masterpiece, but as I said, it's an audio visual masterpiece.
Now,
that is because the score that only Vangelis could have made.
Now, I want to give a shout out, of course, to the late Doug Trumbull, who is the reason why the effects look so good.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't know that they actually hired another company to do the effects first. And they had already spent some serious money, and everything looked like, as Ridley put it, it looked like flying bricks. There was no life to it. And he was very frustrated by this. and he wasn't sure where to go. And Doug Trumbull, I can't remember if it was suggested to him or if it was something that he held. I can't remember, because it is something that happened, that Doug Trumbull was suggested, and or he remembered something about Doug Trumbull because of Close Encounters, not 2001, but Close Encounters. And he goes, that's the look that he was wanting, because you remember how he used that light effect, the lens flare effect.
Exactly.
That JJ gets that from Doug Trumbull, but Doug Trumbull knows how to do it correctly. Whereas,
by the way, Combat Colonization Defense Program.
Yep. Well, there are some problems with when you hear what Nexus 6 was in the opening crawl, with the equal to the intelligence of his maker. I called bullshit on that, because Leon's a Nexus 6 and he's not as smart as the makers. I thought that was just basically as intelligent as their job required. So if someone's supposed to be a military person or a spy, killer, assassin, they need to be very intelligent, like Zora and Roy Batty.
By the way,
Chris and Leon were not smart.
By the way, she was reprogrammed for political assassination.
Yes,
I mean, she was at Zora was.
Oh, Zora was, because she was originally in entertainment. That's why she knew how to dance and all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. Like, to me, I always saw them as like a series where everyone has the potential for the same capability. But then, I mean, these things, they are, in some sense, they're more human than human. One thing is the potential that they have to begin with, but then is what they've been programmed with, and then it's their life experiences. So to me, it was always the potential that was what separated the Series 6 from earlier series. And just like humans are also the same species, but still we're all different. And some people are, because of different genetic potential and different experience, a little bit quicker on the uptake for certain things than others. And you also even have like the same thing in actual computer systems. Like, for instance, if you have like a computer pot or something, they're all supposed to be 100% identical, right? But still, like, one RAM chip from one manufacturer may need a little bit more juiced to perform the same way as a RAM chip from another manufacturer, or even from the same manufacturer but made in different facilities or on different days. Like, things aren't 100% identical, even if they're the same series.
Absolutely. By the way, I don't know what language this is. What is this?
It's German.
Is it
German?
No,
Well,
probably it's
It's
Dutch.
just about your
because-
bad German.
Yeah. It could be either German or Dutch. It looks very, very.
And I just happen to have a
because it says
Norwegian.
here, Rutger Hauer über alles, and this is like what because it should have, if it was pure German, it would have been über alles without the ch
Exactly.
at
It's
the
not
end
German.
there.
By the way,
could be Dutch.
Andre,
Yeah.
I want to introduce you to my girlfriend, Anima.
Oh, hey Anima, good to meet you.
Anima, she's from Vienna, and so
Wow.
Oh, there you go. Well, of course.
she hates my German when I speak it.
She's obviously going to know
It's just
German.
bad.
Being Austrian.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in
Can you bring
secret,
it up
when we're
again?
by
Sorry.
ourselves, she does Arnold Schwarzenegger lines just for me.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, of course, because he's also Austrian. So
Yes, but he's a farmer. Basically, his accent is really.
I
not
was about to
like-
say, yeah, because he sounds he's well, you say
Very
farmer,
rural.
like really he
He
sounds
is-
like more rural.
Yep.
He speaks a very rural dialect, which is the reason why he's not allowed to dub his own movies for the German version. And I think it's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, they were like, he offered it, and they were like, no, okay, it's okay, we got somebody for that. He goes, but I'm the movie star. It's like, no. It's,
Yeah, the
we're
thing is,
good.
the whole country of Germany would have a problem with his Austrian dialect.
Yeah,
They
like for
wouldn't
one
like
thing,
it.
he's Austrian, but it's rural Austrian on top of that.
It's
Absolutely.
Center Austria. I'm from the east.
And by the way, just a passerby, thank you very much. It's good to meet you, and hope you can come back for some more others. We will be doing another Blade Runner show, because this is really we're looking at the theatrical cut. This is the 1982 version, but this is the international theatrical cut, meaning it has the stuff that was threatened by the MPAA for being too violent in it. Which includes...
Before that, can just do a fun story related to Schwarzenegger and him sounding pretty rural. You know, Dolph Lundgren or Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph, I've met him.
Oh, really cool.
I had dinner with him. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
He dated my best friend's sister.
Really?
Yeah, she ended up marrying Robert Evans before he died. You know, Robert Evans, the Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. And just so you know, at the dinner, I was told I was not allowed to ask him anything about He-Man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's the only reason I came to dinner. Are you kidding me? And so I was told, and I kept my mouth shut. And then he brought up taking classes on method acting. And the minute he said that, I said, is that what you used as He-Man? And Jim Woodward, who's been on this show, kicked me right in the shin with his cowboy boots.
Yeah, it took him a long time to get over He-Man. But anyway, the fun story with him, because he's Swedish, but he's not from Stockholm. He's from northern Sweden, so he too sounds like in Swedish he sounds like a hillbilly hick, basically.
That's crazy, really?
Yeah.
I never knew that. And the guy's got practically a PhD in 2 different sciences, right?
Yeah. He's from a place called Norrland.
I've never even heard of that place.
Yeah, well,
wow.
It has 10 people living there, and a few reindeer and stuff. So yeah.
Anyway,
I won't take up more time with that. Carry on with the Blade Runner.
Well, I wanted to do something just for you. I would play this for all my friends from Norway.
Hey, Sweden! Not Swedish, Mac, the Norwegian.
They must have had a Norwegian on set to know that thing. Just like
I really made that for Jace. You know Jace.
Yeah.
Are you guys still hanging out at all or anything?
I haven't spoken with him in a long time, actually.
He's doing okay. I haven't heard from him.
Yeah. No, that's the pet peeve for Norwegians, is to be mistaken for Swedes, because we have a perpetual little brother complex compared to the Swedes.
Oh yeah.
You're reading a magazine, you come across a full-page nude photo of a girl.
Is this testing whether I'm a replicant or a lesbian, Mr. Deckard?
There you go. Nice little clip. I used to have a lot more Blade Runner clips, but StreamYard is so sucky. We pay $50 a month for their thing, and they still limit us on the videos.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the hell, man? Yeah. Evie Mux is what we're supposed to be moving for, because you've not met our producer. He's backstage right now. He's the head of KGRA Radio. He's the station manager.
Cool.
And he has basically wanted to move to Evie Mux, but they're having little problems with it. But I think the big problem is Rumble's not working correctly with StreamYard, and I don't know if they're having problems with it even on Evie Mux.
Oh.
They better resolve this problem, because they really potentially could take the place, or at least compete with YouTube.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're already getting really good numbers on we get better numbers on Rumble than we do on YouTube. Because we're shadow banned. We're shadow banned by YouTube.
Yeah, I can see that. It's
because I'm a dick. I'm sorry, Andre. I hate that you have to be friends with me.
No, sorry. No one gets to tell us who we get to hang out with. So
there you go.
Well, Gary, are you finally going to let his children go back to their father?
Whose what?
Oh, Andre's. I was saying that you kidnapped them. That's why you're friends.
I did not kidnap him. He is here by voluntarily, motherfucker.
He's actually here to hang out
Shut
with
up,
me.
Shinansky. Stop trying to start shit.
Nah, he's here to hang out with me because he knows another Conan fan.
That's right.
Yes,
you two are big Conan fans. I'm a big Conan fan.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, Andre. Yeah.
Yeah, and now when I can soon come to Texas,
to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of the women.
That was loud.
Glorious Austrian Cimmerian accent right there.
Yeah, it's because I went into that film very unsure, because I was a big fan of the books growing up, and but after seeing him play it the way they played it, I'm like, I now believe that Samaria is in Northern Europe. I accept this. And many fans did. You did. T-shirt did. We're all big fans of that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
And
very
we're still
different
been
from
robbed.
the original source, but it's
Yeah.
a fine movie in its own right.
And I've made connections, by the way, with Amanda Milius. And
Oh, very cool.
I'm trying to get her on
I've
the
had
show.
very brief interaction with her to try to get back to her. We're talking about doing something at some
I've talked to her, and I'm really wanting to get her on the channel, and because I like her mind, I like the way she thinks, but I also want to find out how her dad is doing, because I don't know if he ever got his ability to speak back.
I don't think so.
And I think that's why he's been in hiding, isn't directing.
Yeah. I've also had like very minor interactions with her. I have to pick up on that because I want to get
You like her
as
too?
well.
Because I think she's awesome.
I was like, wow, what a woman. But yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't take shit off anybody, dude.
Yeah.
Nobody.
She's
Now,
awesome.
this shot is actually from the end of the film. It's the bathroom scene. And they added this in. And the editor for this film was Mark Ralston, right? Was it Mark Ralston? Hold on, let me double check. Because I always keep the credits nearby.
Yeah, even when Roy is in the phone.
No, it's Terry Rawlings. Terry Rawlings was the editor, and he took that shot from the end of the film where he's in the bathroom and his hand starts spasming. And I'm going to point it out too that scene is cut in a weird way, because there's a moment where technically they're both in the same room at the same time, but they're not. It's just the way it was edited. Because the scene where he hits him with the pipe and the cramps were all in the same room. The cramps came after he got hit in the head with the pipe. And then Deckard runs out and goes outside the window. And then the rest of that scene with the nail and everything was taking place while he was outside trying to get up to the roof. But they edit in a way that it looks like it's done at a different time. And I thought that was neat. There's also a big difference, too, between this edit and the final cut and the director's cut, which is when he's going up onto the roof, the editor fucked up and flipped a shot upside down with his hands going up over the ledge, and it made it more frightening. It was an accident, but they fixed it, and I consider it less frightening now when his hand goes up over the ledge. Deckard, when he's climbing. Anybody else ever catch that? Because it's all mentioned in some of the notes about that. In the making of by Paul Salmon, who, by the way, if you ever want me to introduce you to him, Andre, I'll introduce you to him. Paul Salmon.
Yeah, cool.
The guy that wrote Feature Noir, The Making of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
He's a sweet guy.
He's really awesome. He's the reason why I made Blade Zone, and then why Gary jumped in, and then Paul secretly is one of our online contributors on the Facebook page.
Comic Relief is here.
Mike? Yeah, Mike, what's up, buddy? Hope you're having a good weekend. Anything you want to add before you have to go? Because I know you said you couldn't stay for long.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I'm looking for a cool picture here in the background because I just thought I could add a tiny little bit of trivia, because one of the most enduring movie villains of all time is, of course, Roy Batty. Who just looks amazing, and he is so philosophical, and that line, Tears in the Rain, is so
that came from Rutger.
Unbelievably amazing.
Yeah.
And this is something that many thought was so inspired that there was a group of British filmmakers in the early 90s, and they made a series of movies which were very heavily inspired by Roy Batty and how Rutger Hauer looked in that role. So I'm going to send something in the private chat here right now. So maybe you want to bring that image up on screen, because basically Roy Batty, he got his own direct-to-DVD spin-off series.
I'm trying to find it. Where's it at?
Private chat.
Just posted it.
Oh, the Shadow Chaser films.
Yeah. That's exactly
I saw
right.
all those. Yeah. I saw
you saw them? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know. Yeah, I've seen those too. That was based on Roy Batty?
But obviously, I mean, just look at the image with the white hair and everything like that. Visually, it's Roy Batty all over. Of course.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
like
That's Wings
low
Hauser,
budget
right?
stuff. But
No, it's Frank Zagarino.
yeah, it's Frank
Oh,
Zagarino.
my God, he looks like
but
Wings
that
Hauser.
image with wearing the black leather jacket and with that haircut, everything like that, that's Roy Batty.
And he's an android in all those films too.
Yes, exactly. It's an android.
Holy shit. Okay, I've saved it now. Let me delete this shit here so I can add the image. Boom. There it is. All right, it's uploading.
Try to find a big one with him in like a leather outfit.
There
and
it is.
everything. But basically, he's playing an android in the image of Roy Batty. Wearing, you don't see it here, but like also wearing like the black leather jacket and everything.
Yeah,
man.
And we have to go to break here in a minute.
Oh, is it already 57? All right, guys. Pause the film strip, and we'll be back in a minute and 40 seconds, guys. Hi, guys. This is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Did you know 75% of Americans
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh, wow. We survived. Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA. And I want to point out again that I'm wearing my FU hat right now. This is my Fuel Up hat. They are our sponsor, and I love Fuel Up. They like the fact that I promote them in such a weird way because, like Andre, when I had my first meeting with the company, the first thing I said is, I was using your product for like 2 weeks before someone says, Gary, you don't snort it, you drink it. Nothing.
So you became FU,
Stopped being
Gary.
funny a long time ago.
Yeah, fuck you. Andre never heard it.
I hadn't heard it.
So,
let's just say that I was muted
what does
so
that
you didn't hear
tell
my
you?
roaring laughter.
oh, did you laugh? Okay, good. I'm like, oh shit, Andre didn't laugh. Because one of my proud things I always hold over Fat Steven Seagal is that how many times have you made Andre laugh? Because I've made him laugh, belly laugh. So shut up, Steven. You're not as funny as me.
There you go.
But I got to tell you, this stuff's really amazing. And I stopped having my old man naps in the middle of the day because it kept me energized. It gives you 180 milligrams of caffeine, but it's slow release. Everything is slow release within this stuff. And you feel it. You don't get the jitters. You don't get weird, and then on top of that, you have 3 drinks you take during the day. And all of them work with each other to where when I take the third drink of the day, which is rest, the first one's called wake, the second one's called play, and the third one is called rest. I actually sleep better after drinking that stuff. And it doesn't have melatonin in it. It just, man, I'm so relaxed when I drink that stuff. And what they like about us is everybody with pop culture who's tried it, because a lot of our crews like tried all 3 or at least one of them.
Everybody
That
in the
stuff's
US,
amazing. It is one of the best. What do they call it? Supplements I've ever had. It really is.
Except me.
You haven't tried it yet. Well,
Yeah,
first chance
Martin
I
and
get,
me
I'm gonna
haven't
let you.
either.
Well, he's gonna come on the show again. I think next week, not this coming week, but the following week. Kevin, the guy that owns the company. I'm going to bug him to get some more free samples for everybody, because I'm telling you, man.
So Andre, what other movies would you want to make sure to invite you for?
One, Conan the Barbarian, and I'm going to schedule it around you, Andre.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
I'm going to let you decide when we do it for Saturday.
Conan, Judge Dredd, either the 95 or 2012 one. I can say
we'll start with 95 first.
Of them. Yeah. So yeah, those would be great movies to have me on.
Absolutely.
Andre's too modest to admit, though, that he's just really, really looking forward to doing a long, drawn out review on the Jason Momoa Conan. That would be
actually that one too. I mean, it was a painful watch and a painful experience to go through, but I have a lot of behind the scenes information about that one.
I still have my review for that, Andre, and I think you would have been amused by my review. I said it felt like it was written by 13-year-old boys writing about what they think real men in war talk like.
I know, completely wrong there.
And I think my favorite stab at it was, I said, Conan the Barbarian in that film was like a 16-year-old girl on prom night. He wouldn't shut the fuck up. He just kept talking. And it's
Andre,
like, stop.
Andre actually got me to admit that it was not a good film. I mean, I was trying to keep kind of positive about it. I said, well, it was kind of good. And he was like, is it really, though? And I'm, no.
Is it really?
No, the better question, is it better than Conan the Destroyer? That's the real maker.
It actually isn't.
No, it isn't. I don't even like Conan the Destroyer, but I would rather watch that any day of the week than that. Yeah. And Jason Momoa was born to play Conan.
He was really good. I had the pleasure to meet him, actually. I've met Jason Momoa, and what was cool is that I'm exactly his height. I remember that because when I looked at him, we were standing up and could look him eye to eye.
You're also one of us tall guys then. Okay.
Yes.
I'm 6'3". How tall are you?
Well, I'm I have 6 something. In centimeters, I'm 189 centimeters. So feel free to do the math. And that is something that Mike, the Mexican, I did not confirm because he's seen my passport where that's actually.
You are right around my height. You're 6'2".
Okay, yeah.
Momoa is 6'4".
He's taller than me. He's 6'4".
He's lying. No, he ain't.
Who's lying? I didn't get that.
If he says he's 6'4", he's 6'2" because he's my height.
Oh no, I'm talking about Keith. My Keith.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because it looks like if Momoa says that he's 6'4", if I'm 6'2", he's 6'2".
Yeah, it's like Keith kept telling me he was 6'2", and we were when I was living at the house with my roommates, and he walked past me, and I looked up at him when he walked past me. I'd never noticed that before, and I went, "Hey, you are not 6'2". And he kept saying, "I am. It's on my driver's license." I said, "Then your driver's license is fucking lying." And then Travis and I got a tape measure out. We measured. He's 6'4". He just doesn't want to correct his driver's license.
Oh, there you go. But anyway, I spoke with Jason Momoa about the movie, and what he told me is that, yeah, there were many people involved who wanted it to be good, him included, but sadly the movie was made by, quote, evil people. So, yeah.
Evil people. Very, very well said. I like that. By the way, in Roy Batty's first scene, there is that line that he says, "Fiery the angels fell, deep thunder rode round their shores, burning with the fires of Orc," which is actually from a poem called America, a Prophecy by William Blake. And in it, it's actually "Fiery the angels rose" is what they changed. Rose, which was the colonies. It was a reference to the colonies in the war with Britain is what that poem is about.
I did not know that.
And it's on Bladezone. If you go to bladezone.com sometime, America Prophecy, I made sure to put that poem, the entire poem up there for people to be able to access it and read the entire thing. And I get emotional when I read it because I know
Gary,
what the metaphors mean.
Video, want to continue playing? We might need to skip ahead.
I thought it was still playing. I
was waiting.
No. Always, no, you shouldn't do that because, don't do that.
I was going to say, as much as I like looking at Sean Young, we probably need to move on.
But
And speaking of, I regrettably also have to leave you.
I
just want to
appreciate you
say,
dropping in, man.
Apologies for having distracted your Blade Runner talk with so much non-Blade Runner.
No. It was quite enjoyable. The derailments were, they're educational and fun. And I like that.
With that, everyone, it's been a pleasure to be here with you for a limited time. Anima, pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Good to see you again, Andre.
Yeah, likewise.
I'll see you later, my friend. Take care. I'll
Good
talk to you
seeing
in
you,
the
man.
chat.
Take care.
Perfect. Take care. Bye.
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 And just a reminder, literally, we interact every day. There's not a day when Tom, Andre, Mikey Sutton, his manager, Baum, Keith, and I don't interact in that private chat. We're always talking. And I learned so much being friends with those guys.
See, Andre, to me, he's like a troll. You know they exist, but you're rarely going to actually see them in
prove
the
it.
flesh.
I've seen him.
Yeah, and Jace is one of the few people who's gotten to hang out with him in person because he lives over there in Norway.
Yeah.
But this is a great scene where he's like offering her a drink here and trying to ease the tension because he called her out and now Tyrell won't talk to her, cutting her off. I think he's trying to be a puppet working her to see what'll happen. And that's what they allude to in the sequel is that Tyrell wanted them to get together to see if they could make a baby. But I'm like, that's a weird thing to want.
There was only one Blade Runner
Tyrell
movie.
is a weird guy, so
yeah.
I'm not going to say it's not a sequel. But I will tell you that it's barely connected. It doesn't have the DNA of Blade Runner. It has Harrison Ford, and it answers some things about his character. But I felt like it was a better written story. Don't get me wrong, better written. But I didn't feel like it was a true Blade Runner film because the city didn't feel the same.
Nope.
And
nothing.
And that's the DNA. That's the DNA that's missing. And without that, it doesn't work as a Blade Runner film for me.
Actually, may I go a little bit further on that? I don't think it wasn't just the fact that it was just the DNA of this. It's just the first Blade Runner movie was as much a creation of its actors as it was the director.
What is Monkey talking about?
Oh, he makes.
He wants you to get William on the show.
No, I'm reading this right here. It's like $20 each. Was he talking about this? Did somebody get
Batman capes that he resells them?
Oh, that's freaking cool, dude.
I had to skip ahead a bit. I'm trying to make it so we get done in time.
Enough time? Okay.
Yeah.
This is another repeated thing. It's been used in other films and TV shows. Enhance. Enhance. Super Troopers is my favorite when they did it. And Brian Cox is the chief. He yells at him, "Go to it. Stop that."
There's a parody of investigative series called Touch of Cloth, which does a really great one of that, where they actually go into the person's head, they rewind time, go into their dreams, and then they steal their wallet in the dream and look at it and then freeze, and that's how they get their address.
And by the way, the Esper, how it works, it's an ESP machine, and hence the name Esper. And what it does is it's able to look at light sources and reflections and bend around corners to see what's there. It extrapolates the information from reflections in light in order to figure out what's around the corner. So that's how he was able to get at that angle and see the tattoo of the snake on the jawline. I always love that.
Just figured they were also 3D photos, so there's a lot more, visual fidelity than what we have
now. Here's one of the first flaps. There's the first flap is Harry Bryant when he's giving the numbers during their meeting and looking at the video images of the replicants. This is the second flap where the number she gives doesn't match what's on the image.
And Gary, you know what that image is under the microscope, right?
Yeah, it's cannabis.
Yeah, it's a cannabinoid.
Yeah, it was done as a joke. It was done as a joke, and I thought that was funny. It is funny.
Yep.
Not fish scale, snake.
Not fish scale, cannabis. You smoking dope.
Now this is the third flap. Abdul bin Hassan, the dialogue in the scene doesn't match the lips. And what they did for the final cut is
Ford's son.
They got Harrison Ford's oldest boy to come in, and he captured this part of his mouth because he looks like his dad. And he matched the lips up, and then he digitally added it back into the scene. So the scene works now in the final cut. No lip flap or dialogue flap. Lip flap is one of the technical terms, but also because there are other flaps in the film too, which includes numbers that are wrong from what they're giving to that one. You know, the code she's giving doesn't match the one that she's looking at. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers Leo Gorcey and the East End Boys. And he was a child actor. His son is one of the bartenders here in this scene. High Pike right here, the actor playing the owner of the bar.
Taffy Lewis.
He's the only actor, Taffy Lewis. He's the only actor in the film to do only one take.
Yeah. He was great, though.
He's great as Taffy Lewis. And he nailed it one time and really was like, that's it. It's a take. Let's go. We're done. And he left. And he was proud of that. He's very proud of the fact that he's the only actor in the film to do his shot in one take. And I don't remember ever seeing him in anything else. It's the only thing I've ever noticed him in.
I think I saw him in some other stuff. Yeah.
Well,
I think I saw him in a few
stand-up comic. This is a cool effect here with the photo where Ridley Scott intentionally, when he's looking at the photograph the first time, it comes alive and you see the light movement in it. It's not light on the photo. It's the photo was coming alive. And he did it through a trick of using actual footage that he shot at that location and blending it in with the photo as he's looking at it. And you hear the sounds of child laughter.
These are the kind of details, like just this phone booth alone, like the graffiti, the markups,
everything. Also the price that is listed on the screen. There were experts that said if they had ever gone this direction for making a phone call, long distance phone call, that price is actually how much it would have cost.
There's so many little things in this film that you won't actually see in the film that just contributed to the whole feel of this thing. I mean, like there's little stickers and stuff with signs on them in places that you don't see on the film, but they're there.
Yep. The production artists created all that stuff for this. This is the film that really created world building for cinema. Star Wars kind of did, but this really went to the nth degree.
Oh yeah. Famously, the author William Gibson, the guy behind Neuromancer and the whole Sprawl trilogy, pretty much the guy is considered the godfather of cyberpunk, saw this in the theater. He walked out after 20 minutes and said, "This is so close to what I'm writing right now." And then, a couple years later, boom, Neuromancer.
Yep. But this is one of those funny scenes I always liked, that the voice he's doing. Yeah, we're not here to get you to joy. No. Committee of Moral Abuses. Do you feel yourself to have been exploited? What do you mean exploited?
Dirty holes in the wall.
Dirty holes in the wall. He's trying to talk like what he thinks a bureaucrat should sound like. It's really funny. I laughed in the theater, and a bunch of people near me laughed because it was funny. It was really funny the way he delivered the scene. And but what happens next, really, because I thought maybe it might follow the book, initially, because there was a scene in there where he harasses an opera singer, and I thought that was what they were going to do here, but it's completely different, and I like it. She's a dancer, but she's also a former assassin, so she knocks the shit out of him, and she's stronger than him. That's the one thing all the Nexus Sixes have in common, which is why I said, his being a replicant doesn't make sense because they kick his ass.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why would you make something to hunt something and then make it weaker? It's one thing if you're human getting your ass handed to you. It's another when you're a fucking replicant getting your ass handed to you by another replicant, and even the females.
That's just the same as why make them more intelligent than they need to be. It's just the same logic error.
It's the same thing. And I've talked to her about this scene before. She's another one I'd like to invite on sometime because I've known her for years too. We know Gary and I know most of the cast and crew. Gary knows only one person better than me, really. Well, he knew Joe Turkel better than me because I didn't really want to get to know Joe. But he got to know Gene Winfield, the guy who created the spinners, the big ones for the movie. And I never really talked to Gene Field but once. I regret that. He promised that if I paid him $10,000, he'd build me a spinner from an old Volkswagen. But I never had the money. Hey, Awesome One's here too. Who else has joined us, by the way?
No,
just a passerby,
Awesome
of course. Jeff PDX1. Lady V is here. Slasher Fred. Sean Estep. I said hello to lovely Sherry. Eclay Thomason. Cobra, I said hi to. Yeah, guys, it was great. Man, I loved having Andre on here, even if it was only for a few minutes. It was nice having him on here. But I will get with him and schedule the Conan and Judge Dredd episodes around his work schedule. So we get him for the whole show. Yeah, man.
Here and in the room, this is the type of stuff that was missing from the quote unquote sequel, because the problem is there's no
overcrowding,
crowding, and that was the whole idea with it. Kay lives in an empty apartment. Every space people live in is empty and spacious. Even Tyrell in this movie, who's like the ultra billionaire who arguably could afford space. If you look at his quarters, it's packed to the brim with knickknacks, with junk.
Yeah, well, everything in this film looks lived in. Everything in the other film looks...
And that's what Sid Mead went for. He was going for... He and Ron Cobb had a very, similar... and here's another visual mistake where you can see the stunt man or stunt woman. The hair doesn't match. They fixed that in the final cut too. And she still looks good, man. She's hot. Even now, like 70. And she went in, put on the same costume, and shot the scene with them again, green screen. And they put her back in. Leon in this scene is wording, his mouth is making the words, "Motherfucker must die. Motherfucker must die." And that's all he's saying. He's going to kill. Because that was his girlfriend. He and Zora had a thing. Pris and Batty had their thing. And the two other ones, there were a couple too. The one that was killed during the escape, and then Mary, who we never get to see, dies in a closet. They did shoot that scene, but I've never seen it. And it was played by Barry Bostwick's wife. I can't remember her name. It played Mary. But this scene is so intense. And there's also another edit flap.
Nelligan. Nelligan was her name.
Kate Nelligan. Yeah. Kate played Mary. Now, the flap here that's Rachel in the background. He's already had his scene with her.
Yeah.
And the Leon scene has already taken place. So that's an edit flap. And it's fixed later again digitally. And he's got a scar on his cheek that shouldn't be there. Because that scar he gets from Leon either punching him or throwing him face first into the windshield of that car.
I was considered really interesting that Gaff doesn't speak, normal English at all throughout the entire movie until that very end.
No, he loves shitting on Deckard. Doesn't like him.
The same way Deckard loves shitting on him.
Yep. You can learn one man slaughterhouse. I love that line. One man slaughterhouse. And what it is Deckard's just really good at the detecting. And that's the one thing that he was getting mad at Ridley about, was his character needed to be shown why he's so good. Because clearly he sucks at killing. He's good at the finding.
I still hate what they did.
And this was another number flap moment where he says there's a number, but it's the wrong number because he's still including Mary. And at the time when they did ADR didn't always match. And they had a problem with it back in the 80s, getting ADR to match. And it never sounded right. So they just left it alone. In the end, though, they went back and fixed it with Charlie Deslarica, is Ridley's producer. Mm-hmm. And he's the guy who did all the final edits on the effects for this. and doing all the fixes. So if you love the final cut and how they fixed all the problems, don't just think Ridley Scott. Think Charlie Deslarica. He's the guy who did it. He physically fixed all of it. He's the one who got Harrison Ford's son to come in and fix that lip flap. He went in and got M. Emmett Walsh to redub, and it's great. Now, here's where he gets the scar on his eye, fighting Leon. Well, getting his ass beat by Lion. He's not fighting him because he's going to kill him. It's like, so that's Tyrell's Nexus 6 replicant hunter, top quality model. Really good.
What's that? I think I hear Doomcock screaming.
I'm sure he would. He'd be yelling at me for not so much for being wrong in his eye, but for being sarcastic about it.
No. What I'd love you to do, I'd love you, if you ever talk to him again, have Paul Simon on next time he quotes the book. Just Paul goes, "You mean the book I wrote?"
I don't know what that means, Bush. So is Gav Mercurio?
Mercutio, the cousin of Romeo.
Oh,
He's misspelling it.
It's not Marcutio. It's Marcutio. I played him like several times.
No, it's Mercutio. He's like in a C.
We pronounce it in the play as Marcutio, not Mer.
I don't care how you pronounce it. It's Mercutio.
It's spelled with a T, not a C. The second C is wrong.
So, but I love playing that character, and that's where I got stabbed accidentally. I told you about that. So, but anyway,
because you mispronounced his name.
No, because the tip came off.
I'm just fucking with you, man.
Oh, is that what you're doing? Is that what that's called?
Gary just got the
really
tip.
Nice and quiet. It's so quiet.
So I think he got the point.
Yeah, fuck off, Shinovsky. Jesus Christ. Now, this is the big glowing scene for her, but it's also the big glowing scene for Harrison. He's out of focus. It was done intentionally that he walks behind her, then turns towards the camera out of focus because the focus is on her, and his eyes glow. And it pissed off Bud Yorkin and Jerry Parenchio. They considered that a chintzy, cheesy effect, in-camera effect. And they considered it like guttural. It's very gutter effects. Because they consider themselves better filmmakers than that. But the fact is like, I think it would have worked if he had set that up in the story. It needs to be in the story somewhere. And it's nowhere. It's just done through these visuals. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Storytelling, it needs to be like it's always said, it has to be in the script. If it's not in the script, it's not on the screen. And I don't care if the director says something. All the director is the guy who's trying to make his case. It's the audience, the overall audience. Now, I will say that in this one, it would be called a hung jury because it's right about 50%. 50% agree, 50% disagree. And I've always been in that disagree one.
You couldn't have that happen if you tried. It just is one of the miracles of this movie that fundamental question keeps coming up and there really isn't an answer, which actually makes it more interesting because what makes us human is what you end up coming across because of that question, which is a much more deep thing to go over.
Yeah, I've already said hi to him. I said hi, Scribe, but somebody talked over me and you didn't hear me.
To me, it never really mattered if Deckard was a replicant or not, because in the end, he winds up in the same place.
The humanity aspect of it is because that's what we're doing, and that's what Harrison Ford wanted is us to root for his character, because even though he's forced into doing this against his will, he doesn't want to do it, and he's getting his ass handed to him with these people because his heart's not in it. And he falls in love with the very thing he's supposed to be hunting, and so he's sort of, I don't know. When I wrote my little short story, one of my short stories, in it, he actually buys a bar up in the Northeast, and it's called Rick's Cafe, because he becomes the underground for replicants wanting to go north. and find freedom in the Yukon. And I made that connection with the classic Bogart film. And in that one, though, she dies. He killed her because she started malfunctioning in my short story. And I felt that she should. I didn't like she was special. That's one thing I didn't like. I didn't like that. I thought that they needed to get done what they needed to do in 4 years.
By the way, the piano that they're at, one of the
Baby
prop
Grand
pictures is Deckard with his wife. She actually is in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Also, some of those photos are from his family photo album. He brought them in. And it had an air of legitimacy because on his mother's side of the family, they were Jewish. And you could see that European Jewish look on their faces. Yeah, he helps him go live on a farm upstate. That's right.
I know that Sean Young says that he hated her and all that on the production, but I think all that whole chemistry actually worked out really, really well between them because she's so young. And
well, I know things about stuff I'm not allowed to talk about publicly.
Right. Yeah.
And but it frustrated her that there was one day he was being nice to her, and then suddenly the next day he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of things that went on. And sadly,
also, she has talked publicly about how basically Ridley was trying to sleep with her.
Yeah, Ridley supposedly was. I've heard from other people that that's not true. So it's a he said, she said situation. I'm not going to judge either one of them.
Yeah, no,
but if I was a film director and there's a beautiful woman in my film, I would probably try to go out with her too. But I wouldn't be trying to just bed her. I would try to get her to go out with me if I was attracted to her. But
well, I mean, either way,
everybody meets people at work that they go out with. That's like one of the most church and work are the two most common places for people to meet. They think you would think bars. It's not.
The thing is, it's like the chemistry between them is so good, though.
I would have loved to have seen Daryl Hannah in Fury Road. I think she's a better actor. So they did Boink. I'm not saying a damn thing. You're not getting a confirmation from me on that. How the fuck would I know anything? But I love this scene, and a lot of people don't know it, that the thing she looks into, that little viewer, originally there was a shot of it, and guess what it was? Fans of Blade Runner? It was that horse, the unicorn.
Oh, yeah.
There was a photo, a still of that horse, the one you see in the footage running.
Nice.
And that was put in there. And if you pause it, I've been told I couldn't see it, but supposedly a reflection on her face, you can see it in her face. 15th and R. Okay, whatever.
I felt bad for Sebastian because he's getting manipulated this entire time, and he's thinking he's actually getting some friends, some companionship.
But the thing is, though, there is real empathy with Roy Batty. I don't know about with Pris because she's a showgirl, but I suspect because he actually does apologize. The only person he apologizes to on screen is J.F. Sebastian.
Yeah. In fact, I think I have always thought that if Sebastian didn't panic, Roy wouldn't have killed him.
Yeah, because he's very cat-like. And if you run from a cat, the first thing they want to do is chase you.
I kind of wonder. I kind of wonder at what point though JF figured out what they were, because he does figure out what they are, and he mentions he says I kind of at what point he's like, oh, this is a pleasure model, Pris, or whatever.
Yeah,
I think he knows almost instantly because it's all he does is the genetic engineering. He knows that better than he knows people.
Yeah, JF is in Deadwood. Bill is. He's another one I'm friends with. Him and his wife Sharon I'm friends with. I've known him for 25 years.
I want to talk to him before he dies, Gary, one day.
Well, my goal is to get him on here, but he's like so not techie. He lives a very simple life in Pennsylvania now. You know, they retired to Pennsylvania. Him and his wife. I won't say what part, but they don't have any, like, they don't use mobile phones with cameras. It's just very low tech living, and I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to get him on the show because I want to get him on the show badly. I've thought about just sending them like a mobile device to use, a burner. And because I want to get him on the show so badly because he really is a sweetheart. I mean, this man fed my daughter when she was a baby, Bill Sanderson. God, just really a sweetheart of a guy. He actually cried when he was feeding her.
Oh.
Yeah, he's like, he had tears, and I got a little panicky. I'm like, what's going on with your husband? Why is he getting weird? You know, and Sharon was like, you know, that because of his exposure to Agent Orange, they were never able to have kids. And it meant a lot being able to feed a child like that to him because he loves babies.
See, this is another thing with it. They're talking about, like, there's a bit of me and you. I always kind of figured Sebastian sort of sees them kind of as his kids as well. Similar how
absolutely he sees them that way. And one thing I got to remind people, they're not clones and they're not androids. What they are bioengineered robots. They are their parts they're manufactured. They're put together just like a machine. And each one of these guys
or something.
Yes.
They call them skin jobs. He didn't. No, JF is too sensitive a person. He would never say something like that. But he manufactured parts. Of course, the big scene with Chu is...
I only do ice.
I told you about that phone call from him. That is so fucking funny. Called my house. Hey, Gary, this is James Hong. I only do eyes. Call me. His voice just kept going higher, and I'm like, what the fuck?
See, I'd love to have that scene redone, but as his character from Big Trouble in Little China. See, replicants coming. This really pisses me off.
This really pisses me off to no end.
To no end. It pisses me off was not funny, but when he adds to no end, I fucking lost my shit because that's like what my dad would say. Shit pisses me off to no end. The shit you're doing right now.
Mr. Batty.
Shut up, Mr. Burton. You are not here to get it.
Yeah, and of course, the real disease.
To get it.
Yeah. The Methuselah syndrome was really weird because it's progeria is the disease, the actual disease. And I thought it was weird that they just gave it a fictional name when there is a real disease that does that, progeria.
It's a fictional world. Why not have a fictional name for it?
I just thought it was weird because there's a real disease that does it, and they didn't have to do that. Backdoor Gary's dad was David Lopan.
I guess also, if you say Methuselah syndrome, people have an immediate idea what the hell it does.
Yep. Let me do a backdoor one.
Thanks for holding on to him, Louise.
That's weird. I left them right here by the back door.
Maybe we only need like 3 stink bombs. You better give me the other ones.
Okay, I drop these 3 stink bombs, smell out the joint, and slip out the back door.
And is it not playing? It won't play.
Oh.
Maybe we can get in through the back door.
Again.
It does that sometimes.
Oh, and another one?
Because we had 3 breaches that I saw.
And another thing that separates Deckard from the replicants in this, the replicants, for the most part, are much more alive than he is, which is the irony of the whole situation.
Yeah, it's the irony is that Roy Batty ends up being more human than him in the end. And the odd thing is he was going to kill him. He was going to let him die. But there is a moment when Deckard spits at him, and a lot of people didn't even see it. It happens so quickly on screen that when he's about to fall, he says that little thing, that's what it is to be a slave. And Deckard doesn't respond to him. He just spits a big loogie at him.
Mm-hmm.
And right in at that instant, he decides to save him. It's the spitting at him that he identified with him, and he saves him with his weak hand, the one with the nail in it. It's just like, that fucking moved me. I've always loved that scene. Yeah. And I've watched that thing for years, and people kept going, he spits at him. I'm like, yeah.
He does.
And it wasn't until I got Laserdisc where I could pause it to show them. Because you can't do that with VHS. VHS is SD, and it's just, the quality is no good. And it's hard to show where he spits. But once you got it on Laserdisc, it's a higher quality, and absolutely you can pause and you can see him spit. And you feel the tension with JF here. This is how good an actor Bill is. Another quick thing to mention here is that Joe Turkel, Gary Willoughby and I were the ones who proved that he wasn't dead, because IMDb listed him as dead in the 90s. And we said, no, he's not. We found him. Here he is. And so Internet Movie Database had to fix that. We couldn't fix it back then. We had to email them, let them know, no, we found him. He is quite alive. And it's because of that, by the way, that the game was able to find him, because they didn't have any he didn't have an agent anymore.
Read this abomination.
That the game was able to find Joe Turkel. My friend, I can only say this: of all the souls I've encountered, Captain Kirk, yeah, his was the most replicant. Yeah, there you go. Nice play on Kirk's words. I love the way his place looks. It looks like a temple, you know.
Yeah, it's modeled on the Pope's quarters in the Vatican.
Not surprised.
Yeah, in case.
And then he tells him, "Stay here. Stay here. Don't move. Stay right here." You know, and it's like, he should know he's going to die, you know. But what I do love is that when Roy is moving towards him, he apologizes to J.F. Sebastian. He's the only one he apologizes to. He doesn't feel any guilt killing anybody else. So it's like, he's sociopathic in some ways, but really what he is a child, not understanding the gravity of what he's doing.
Well, now that we've gotten up to this scene, there is something that I wanted to interject into the conversation. And I know that this was a scene that was ultimately not shot, but it was always kind of interesting to me as a what if, was when Batty kills Tyrell.
This is also one right here, by the way. I'm sorry, I was getting ready to say this before you said it. He didn't say fucker, he said father. And they had him redub that with fucker for this cut, theatrical cut. And that was ordered by Jerry Parencio and Bud Yorkin. The original line was father. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. So when he kills Tyrell, when he gouges out his eyes, there's a version where there's supposed to be like wires, springs, and all this, and you find out that Tyrell, this version of him, is also
he's not a machine. Again, no, that was something that was early on, and then later they said no, they're bioengineered, and so he does kill him, but he finds out that there is a sarcophagus with a sleeping real Tyrell. He's kind of in stasis because he has a terminal disease. Again, why he's always looking not directly at the person, I was going to mention this before too, is that he has trouble remembering lines. So they would put cue cards all over the set, taping things. And that's how you'll catch him like looking other directions when he's talking and not directly at the person he's talking to. It's because he's looking at the lines.
He isn't lines.
Adding to his character though, because
it gives him a very odd way of being. And it's such a weird thing that he has a short what do they call it? Short memory problem, retrograde amnesia kind of thing. But it's just simply he couldn't memorize lines.
Well, that and those Coke bottle glasses he had to wear.
He stole those.
He could see anything through those.
He stole those. He admitted to it to Gary and me that he still has those glasses.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's a fact. I don't mind admitting that because he passed away. I can't get him arrested for it now. He's dead. But I remember I made the announcement to IMDb. He's really dead this time. That look on his face there right there is such. He's so broken there, disappointed.
Well, it's the key with it is that Tyrell just his ego is so massive. He can't see that his son would actually want to hurt him because it's his creation. And meanwhile, Roy is basically devastated because he's come up. There's no answer. He's going to die.
Exactly. Ron's comment is correct. They wanted his death off screen because you could not feel sympathy for Roy Batty if he killed JF on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And it was decided very quickly that he had to be killed off camera. And by the way, he doesn't just gouge his eyes out, he crushes his skull.
Yeah.
And it's very violent. And it starts with the real actor, and then they had the prosthetic head, which was a perfect casting of his actual head. And poor JF there, he is just so horrified. He wants to run, but he won't run. He feels cornered, trapped. Where am I going to go? There's nowhere to go. And he drops the body lifeless. I mean, just this scene. And Vangelis's music here, the heavy, foreboding synth.
My favorite channels is that one when the stars are just flying by, almost like he's flying through space, and the music, and then just the look on his face.
And there was more additional dialogue in the elevator that got left out too. The computer talks to him, and he says, "Mother." He actually refers to the computer as mother in this.
And this is where they talk about how Sebastian was basically mangled to death. It's like, yeah, you can't.
I think he killed him quickly. I don't think he would make him suffer. He probably broke his neck.
Yeah, I would hope so.
But he was pissed off enough. He probably beat on him a little bit afterwards.
Yeah,
either way.
His death, Tyrell's death, is what really pushed him into the X rating, and they had to change it like a week. I think they had a week or 10 days before it got theatrical release, and then they had to create new copies of the film, because I don't think they left it to the theaters, because sometimes theaters are requested to do a change. They had to do a filter change because they had to alter the scene in the American cut to all red, so you didn't see the blood. Otherwise, it would have had the X rating.
It's a shame too, because it compared to a lot of other movies, it's not that extreme, but it's the character crescendo. It really is like the end of like everything that happened with Roy, and it's the end of his ascent, and now it's time for the descent because he has nowhere else to go but down, literally.
Yeah, this scene freaked me out a lot. Her character, the way she moves. It's like, when she turns her head suddenly, it's like, what the fuck? It's like, God damn it. Zax, what's up, buddy? We had Andre on, man. Missed it, buddy.
I always found it funny with Pris, though, because, Decker does actually see her. So it's like, are you genuinely actually surprised? Because,
the makeup. He keys in on her.
Yeah.
When he walks in that room, he's looking around. All this movement is meant to be confusing. And I believe she's the one who turned all of them on to be confusing for him. But he keys in on her, and his instinct, that gut instinct, gets him kicked 20 feet.
Yeah, it's like maybe poke her with a stick or something. Don't just go up with your gun in her view of the combat model that's going to try to kill you.
And by the way, there's a shot here. She did some of these flips. But the main one that gets done is a dude, because she couldn't do it fast enough. Because she was a gymnast and she knew how to do these things. But
she had to do it so many times because they rehearsed it so many times that she was too exhausted.
This scene was cut out. This scene was cut down from what it was originally. And they didn't show the whole nose thing. But they did the turn. When she turned his head, I didn't see his body turning. I'm like, did she just break his neck? What the fuck is going on? How is he still? I was confused by that. And now that's a stunt guy. That's a stunt man doing the flip. And
they found him kind of last minute.
He rolls. Yeah, because she just couldn't do it.
She was too exhausted after all the rehearsals.
he spun and shoots and hits her, and her body, her character, Pris, is so full of energy that everything's firing at once. That's why she goes into this crazy violent spasm, and he's literally has to put her down because she's in so much pain. Again, he shoots her. She's already dead, but he has to shoot her again because he can't stand watching her suffer. And Roy Batty here. And
Yeah.
sped this up, by the way. They shot this at normal speed and then cranked it at the last second for him to jump out of the way. So it looked like he moved faster than normal. And he did, because they cranked the camera a certain way. But this scene was his idea. I thought this was great, that he kisses her and her tongue goes back in her mouth.
Yeah.
And Deckard's scared shitless because this is the worst of the worst.
I have to admit, I lusted after Daryl Hannah for years after this scene.
We all did.
This whole role. Yeah, we all did.
Splash did it for me too.
This more so than Splash, I think.
Oh, yeah. I always love this super close up. You see the water, everything on.
Yeah, this is the hero gun. This is the hero gun. And right when they cut away, that is no longer the hero gun. That is the one that mine is made off of. The one I have here at my house is made off of the mold of that one, the stunt gun.
Yeah, the original one was a Steyr Mannlicher rifle that was cut down and pistol gripped, and it was like really heavy.
With a bulldog pistol.
Yeah.
I've always found Harrison Ford screaming at this point kind of more amusing than terrifying, because he's like, I'm like, dude, your finger's getting broken. That shit hurts.
Yeah.
Well, I can admit having things broken on me, and I've never screamed. One time, I grunted.
Yeah,
but you're a sociopath, Gary.
I just find it's just the way he does it. I find amusing. That's all.
Yeah, that's Harrison. Harrison's kind of a puss in real life. I don't know.
It's like, I'm going to give you a few seconds before I come, and then his Deckard should just respond. It's like, wait, are you looking for a date?
I'm coming. He sings
I'm coming.
His terror in the scene is one of my favorite things. And he goes back to her, and Pris, he's like broken.
Yeah.
He's had to deal with learning that there's no saving them, and now she's already dead. He wanted to go before her, that. Why she didn't kill Deckard? She had plenty of time because she was playing with her food. That's why cats lose mice sometimes, because they like to play with them before trying to kill them.
They're only like 4 years old. So they've only started to actually develop into what would be semi-adults.
Yeah. Now I want spaghetti. God damn it, awesome one. Why doesn't she... Oh, I like this one. Here we go. That was a stunt, they, them, Gary.
Yeah, no, it's the power of a replicant that can transition at will.
Thank you, Zax, because I love this film. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This scene actually, when he gets hit with the pipe, that whole scene was shot at the same time. And so it's really weird that they edited it this way, because I recognize the bathroom and the broken window where he slammed his head into it. And it's edited in a way to where they take place at separate times, but they're actually taking place at the same time because of the way they edit it. This actually took place while Deckard is outside the window. That's what this scene was done. And oh my God, that scene right there really, I was like, as a kid, God damn. But it's clearly, because right there, that's the same room. He just put his head through the wall. He's not in a different room. You got to get it up. You got to get it up. And I think that meant exactly what it sounded like. It was a gender reference, sex reference. Get it up. You can't play, and if you don't play, and this is when he has his attack. That's
I
the
always
spirit.
love his look, like as he's getting hit, and then he just like is reaching for it. Like he's not even composed anymore. He's just like, "Come on, motherfucker, come on!"
And when you watch this, he doesn't have the nail in his hand anymore when he grabs the pipe. That's because this took place before the nail scene. And he goes, and I love it. He says, "That's the spirit." And Deckard's like, "Fuck this, I'm out of here." He's like, "I'd rather fall off this building than deal with this guy." He is so fucking terrified of this character. And after the nail scene, then he jumps through the window here. Because there was more stuff that actually happened out on the ledge that they cut out. He goes, "That was irrational."
Unsportsmanlike.
Where are you going? Oh, yeah, the unsportsmanlike. That's what unsportsmanlike. And Deckard smiles at him. He says, "Where are you going?" It's like he just smiles at him like, "I'm getting the fuck out of here." Now, again, on this one scene here, when he's going up here, originally it was upside down. And it was something that was done in the edit. And it made it more terrifying because it felt like he was off balance. It threw the audience off balance. But they fixed it later. It's not like that in the final cut. Oh, when he comes up out of there and that fucking music cue happened. Oh.
You're McCoy.
And this is all done in the final day of shooting. And I hope it's captured in the... Again, he's got a nail in his hand and a dove. Clearly a reference to Jesus. And he jumps across with no problem, making Deckard look like a pussy. I like that.
I love that, Matt. Just the city skyline down below.
Yeah, again, you know, I wanted to mention a couple of the artists involved with this film, and Matt Juricic is the matte artist for this film. He did all the great mats for this film. They felt really real. But right there, he spits at him and he catches him. I love that. If he hadn't spit at him, he would have let him die. I know it. It was
that defiance in the face of death.
Defiance in the face of death, and he decides to save him and give him his last thoughts to be so he can be remembered. And delivers this one of the most beautiful monologues in the history of cinema. Yeah, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships
What
on
do you
fire
mean,
off
you
the
people?
shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments we lost in time, like chokes a little, tears in rain. Time to die.
Yep. See, part of the reason I also think that Roy does it is because think about it, his entire people, everyone who's with are all dead. There's going to be
He wants somebody to remember him. No, it's absolutely what this is about. He wants to be remembered because that's what breaks his heart is like all those moments are lost, you know, but now I've told you this little bit and you know something.
Why does this say in the rain instead of in rain?
Bad subtitle, people. I mean, they misspelled Blade Runner when the Chinese guy goes, he said you Blade, or he's Japanese. He said you Blade Runner. He did not say Blade Runner. He said Braid. He said
Bread.
R. Of course, this was a huge gaffe right there. Suddenly clear sky. They had no choice. They had no choice. They were out of time. And the dog flies off.
This is where it's like, yeah, this particular one didn't necessarily need to be, but
it should have been longer. He should have already had the Gaff moment when Gaff wakes him out of his daze, and then the narration should have taken place.
Yeah.
Doing it right after this was, I just fucking hated it. I hate this part of the narration.
Still, but yeah, probably my favorite scene in the movie though is the one just like after he's dead, and just Gaff is just like, so you're through, huh?
You've done a man's job, sir. I guess you're through, huh? He's alluding to Rachel. Finished. Too bad she won't live, but then again, who does?
And that's why Gaff's one of my favorite characters.
Yep. Now, one of the bad things they fixed in the final cut too is you can see the cables holding the spinner.
Yeah.
This scene freaked me out because I'm like, he uses his hand with his pistol in it right there. And I'm like, what is he doing? Why is he getting? He's not going to shoot her. And I thought that was a weird choice to
John,
have the same
if you
hand.
want,
But
forward a little because I only have 4 minutes left.
Yeah, I love you. We can move ahead to the happy ending. This is the theatrical happy ending that was brought about because Bud Yorkin sees the origami, doesn't care, and he call you breadwinner. That's right. And they have this happy ending, which is actually shot in a police spinner, not his spinner. That's why the curve of the windshield. There's 2 scenes like that. The scene where he's calling JF's apartment, that was shot in the blue spinner. And that's it, guys.
Oh my God, Jeeves.
What the fuck is I've actually made that joke before you. So, haha, monkey. I've made that joke. They're only 4-year-olds. Yes, I have. It's referred to as a sidequel to Blade Runner. That it supposedly takes place. It's written by David Peoples, based off of Harlan Nelson's story, Soldier, and it's that was what they were using before. They had enhanced humans before they started getting into robotics and with Tyrell.
Hey, Monkey Jeeves, listen, if being attracted and wanting to bang Daryl Hannah is wrong, then I don't want to be right.
Yeah. So, but that's it, guys. We finished the show. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thanks for running the show, John. Thank you, Martin, for running the chat. And thank you all for being here today. T-shirt, Chinatsky, Anima Confusa, and Stephen Deleted Scenes. I want to thank Andre for popping in for when he did. It was awesome. We have enough time for me to say thank you to everybody. I'm going to try. I want to thank Penny Bush McFadden. Let's see, Alex Moore, Monkey Jeebus, Dragon Ruse, Ron McCain, Cobra Khan 007, E. Clay Thomason, The Lovely Sherry, Sean E. Step, Slasher Fred, Lady V Elements, Jeff PDX1, Real Wade Nation Gaming, The Comic Relief Crusader, Awesome One, and Scribe Light Zax, and Cam's Crash Courses. Thanks, guys, for all being here. It was a fun show. I love talking about Blade Runner. We will be doing another one again in a few weeks about the final cut. Until then, everybody have a great week. Next week, it's Ghostbusters with Tom.
Bye.
Those sons of bitches.
Ma, I'm doing a show.